Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. My name is Tommo, and welcome to a news Chinwag. I need to come up with a name. It's not a pre-race, it's not a post-race. We're just talking about news. There's been a hell of a lot of news today, so we've got a bunch of topics to talk about. And I'm joined by Minton, which if you're watching live on YouTube, you can see him on my shoulder right now. Also, if you're listening on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, you can't see him unless you watch on Spotify, because I upload these in video format on Spotify. So you can watch on there as well. And of course, you can also support me on Patreon, which, any support goes towards feeding this one and helping keeping Minton. Although the way he acts is like he's not bloody fed ever. But you're just a little greedy boy, aren't you? Look at him. Look at his little gums. They've all like gone in on themselves. He looks like he's gone like that. Bit of an Elvis Presley, bless him. Welcome everyone. Thank you all for joining me. And shall we get straight into it? Should we not faff about? Should we not beat around the bush? Should we just get into the news? All right. Good to see you all. Tank, Michael, Yash, Matthew, Jordan, Marius, Seamus, Doha, Squidgy, Iasu, Winner Loser, Tiago, Tina, Junior, Sandy, Naughty, and the rest of you. Right. Let's start off in no particular order. It's just the order that I've ordered it in my scenes. Alpine finally confirm that they will be signing up with Mercedes-Benz for both their power unit and their gearbox from 2026 and beyond. Okay, got a little screen share here. Team statement: BWT Alpine Formula 1 team and Mercedes-Benz sign power unit and gearbox agreements. A multi-year agreement will see Mercedes supply Alpine with power units for the duration of the new regulation era from 26 to at least 2030. Alongside the power unit, BWT Alpine Formula 1 team will also be supplied with Mercedes gearboxes. So they're dipping nicely into the pool. Now, does this all indicate towards an upcoming sale of that team? We don't know. Writing feels like it's on the wall, doesn't it? It feels like it's on the wall as far as I'm concerned. And look, at least an uptick in performance. Obviously, big points in Brazil moves them up to P6 in the constructors, which means money, less ATR. But it feels like Renault don't want to be putting any more money into this team than they absolutely have to until they can offload it. They're making it a more sellable commodity because it doesn't have, a works engine deal attached to it. It's a customer team. It will be from 2026 onwards. Anyway, the staff at Viri aren't happy about it, but it's happening anyway. So yeah, they should just sell it for real. I agree, Tina. Look, it would be, if Renault really took it seriously and wanted to go all in with the Alpine branding, back to the blue and red and white like we saw in 2021, a beautiful livery, right? They're finally, it's not launched yet, is it? The new Renault 5. They've got the Alpine A290, I want to say it's called. I was watching a review of it yesterday. It's a bit bigger than I was hoping it would be. But then again, that's just cars these days. They're just getting big, aren't they? Far too big. Why not 25? Well, David, they've already got their engine right now. There's no point trying to rework their current chassis to accommodate a Mercedes power unit when they're going to just have to change it all again going into next year. So they might as well just carry on with the remainder of 24 and 25 with this Renault power unit as is. Make the best of what has not been a great situation, let's be honest, as of late, and crack on, and crack on and get on with it. It's a bad look for Renault, for Alpine. We've talked about this at length. This only really makes sense if they're vying to sell the team because, having gone from a long-standing, right, because Renault have heritage in this sport as a power unit provider, not just a Formula 1 team, and to essentially not back yourself enough to be able to do a good enough job from 2026 onwards. Because look, if Renault Alpine do bits from 26 onwards with a Renault power unit in the back, that is going to reflect well. And, marketing wise, if they become the best team, right, which seems an outlandish claim, but I mean, I'm not being funny, Honda did it. They produced a fantastic car, didn't bankroll it until 2009. Fortunately, Ross Brawn saved it, kept it going. I mean, what a shame that would have been if that had never seen the light of day as Honda pulled the plug, eh? Hey, Minton. Go on, mate, you sit down now. You're getting a bit sleepy. With that light in his eyes. Yeah, look, I think it's, from a sporting point of view, Do I think moving to Mercedes power units from 26 and beyond will likely help the team? I mean, they've been hamstrung by a power unit for a while now. They've definitely got a power deficit. It is the weakest engine on the grid, yet they're still able to pull performances out. Not just Brazil in isolation. Gasly has got a bunch of Q3s as of late. So it's optics, isn't it? The whole point of these big brands being in Formula One is to sell you something. And in this case, it's to sell Alpine road cars, which there are finally more of. And it's like Alpine have finally got to the point where they've actually got another car that is quite a consumer car as well, right? The Renault 5 / Alpine A290, whatever it's called. But it's taken so long to get to that point that, it already looks like they're kind of starting to wind things down, which is a great shame, because if they'd have had, the Alpine A290 ready when they rebranded to Alpine in 2021, things might look a bit different. But yes, Alpine Mercedes, this isn't really big news. This is just kind of, we all knew this was going on. We all knew this was happening. This was an inevitability, wasn't it? So no big news here. So we thought we'd start with this one. However, the next bit of news, pretty big. Niels Wittich is out. He is out. He has stepped down, or so the FIA have said, as race director with immediate effect. So he will not be in charge for the Las Vegas Grand Prix. He's been replaced with Rui Marquez, who is Formula 2, Formula 3 race director. There's not actually many pictures of Rui Marquez. I would have done his own slide for him, but there's not really any high resolution pictures of Rui. Not even on my image bank that I pay to use for all my images. What are you doing down there, Minton? No one's there. Sit down, settle. But yes, Niels Wittich is out. Now, of course, there's been a lot of controversy as of late. The big statement from the drivers directed more at Mohammed Ben Sulayem, seemingly, than anyone else. And Niels has been kind of doing his job. I mean, there's been a lot of scrutiny, more around the stewards. And again, there's a clear differentiation. That's not even the right word. To split up, a race director and the Michael Massey job. This was the Michael Massey job. And then, of course, initially it was given, that job was split between Niels Wittich and, I can't remember the other bloke's name, to be honest. But there was two of them doing it. I'm sure one of you in the live chat will let me know. Why am I out of breath? I don't feel 100%, to be honest, J-Pro. So I'm running through with what little Freitas, there we go, Eduardo Freitas, thank you, chat. Yes, this was initially split between Freitas and Wittich. Then they decided, no, we just need one race director, and Wittich stayed in place. And again, the stewards and the race director, they are two different things. The stewards are the ones who, the race director can, give things to the stewards to do. They could, no, this one deserves a looking at. But the stewards are the ones who make the ultimate calls as to what punishments are served out. But Wittich is out. And again, the FIA claimed he kind of stepped down. And that's certainly how it was initially spoken about. And this post from the race saying Niels Wittich stepped down from his role as F1 race director, which he took over from Michael Massey in 22. Rui Marquez, who fulfilled the same role in F2 and F3, will take over from the Las Vegas Grand Prix. However, then, shortly after that, Christian Menath, who is I believe, German journalist, with decent reputation by the looks of it, and there's been some, solid sourced retweets on this one and reshares of this one. Niels Wittich told me he did not step down from his role as F1 race director. He was just fired and was told so today. Very strange things happening 3 races before the end of the season. So already it's a little bit messy, a bit unnecessarily messy. I don't know why they just wouldn't say he's been let go, he's been dismissed. They've said that he's stepped down. Now, of course, say gloomy, who's got the power to fire him? I mean, obviously, MBS is the top dog at the FIA, so perhaps him. Does this have anything to do with the letter from GPDA to the FIA? I don't think so. I mean, look, it's not like they're removing Niels Wittich to replace him with a new system. It is Wittich out, Marquez in. So, seemingly, all the talk with the GPDA, and George Russell was speaking specifically about it to have kind of permanent race stewards. That is separate to the kind of governance of the sport as such, right? So you've got the stewards, they come and go at the moment, and I think there's a general push, and I think I certainly agree, and I think most of you agree that I think permanent stewards is viable. I know there's a lot of talk about, it's going to be hard to find people to do it. I don't know, I think to find 4 stewards who will just go to every single race, like a lot of personnel in F1 already do, like, it's a thankless task. I mean, refereeing any sport is a thankless task. Just ask that fella who just got that video of him going off on Jurgen Klopp, I can't even remember his name, who's Premier League manager, right? Like, you're not going to get liked, okay? If you want to be liked, don't be a referee in any sport. That's it, David Coo, yeah, there we go. James Alex, you'll do it. Okay, I mean, look, James, listen, I don't know where you send your CV, mate, but maybe add MBS on Instagram, see if you can shoot it over to him. Look, it is a thankless task, but yeah, this doesn't seem to align with, that letter to me, because the letter was more like, I mean, Niels Wittich isn't the one who's been undermining the drivers, seemingly anyway. I don't know what goes on behind closed doors, but that felt like it was more directed towards MBS than anything else. And again, if they want to bring in permanent stewards, well, you still need a race director. That doesn't change. So, I don't know. This is a bit of a strange one. 3 races to go. Perhaps they're looking to evaluate Rui Marquez between now and the end of the year to see how he does. Maybe try something different. Maybe the FIA feel more emboldened to do that because, Max has wrapped the championship. It would have been really interesting. I do wonder if things had gone differently in Brazil and Lando would close that gap right out. Would they have made a dismissal like this? Because it seems he was dismissed. Would they have, with 3 races to go, do you change the race director if there's a championship in the balance? I don't know. I don't know if they would have. I don't know. Perhaps this is the case. I mean, look, maybe I'm the permanent steward they need. Maybe, look, you can have 4 permanent stewards. You need an ex-racing driver. You need a fan, which could be me. You could have... Who else? I don't know. Look, you can have a good selection of people who understand racing. Now, some of you would question my understanding of racing, and to that I would say, well, yeah, okay, fine. I've watched racing all my life. And that's the thing, right? That's why you have a panel of stewards. And many of them, most of them, all of them really should be ex-racing drivers. Yeah, even though you have a panel of 4 all ex-racing drivers, that doesn't mean they're always going to agree on everything. You can be a professional racing driver, but that doesn't rubber stamp with absolute guarantee that any opinion you speak of is fact. You know what I mean? So, but yeah, maybe Michael, bring him back. Oh, imagine. Oh, that would not be pretty, would it? That would not be pretty. Never truly know what with the FIA. They may make a lot of questionable choices. Yeah, absolutely. And actually, you know what? Speaking of that, my old mate Victor, if you're Spanish speaking, you'll probably be well aware of Victor Abad. Great guy. He's basically the Spanish me. I feel like we cover the sport in quite a similar way. And he put this big Twitter post together. And there is a translated by Google thing. And it's basically all of the... Well, from, following the forced dismissal of Michael Massey, the FIA announced a revolution, blah, blah, blah. And a full breakdown of all of the kind of chaos that's been going on. So go give this a read. All right? I'm not going to read this full, but Victor Abad, F1, check him out. Great guy. Love Victor. But yes, that's the thing. That's happening. Who knows what to make of it? Again, I don't think this change is linked to the GPDA stuff, but maybe it is, because at the end of the day, MBS at the reins, he's the one with the authority to dismiss Niels Wittich. Maybe there's others, but I believe it would just, it would mainly sit with MBS. Who knows? Who knows? Bring back the cold-blooded villain that is Michael Massey. Nah. Oh, that would just be chaos. That would be absolute chaos. But Niels Wittich is not the only person out, or should I say demoted, I think is the best way of putting it. Fallows is out of his role as technical director at Aston Martin. Now, of course, Fallows came from Red Bull, went to Aston Martin. He was one of arguably the first kind of big, high-profile signings of intent. You take Dan Fallows, who had a long, successful career at Red Bull Racing, and seen by many to be Adrian Newey's protege, which is interesting. Okay, the speculation is going to be rife with this one because Fallows leaves Red Bull for pastures new at Aston Martin. Then Newey comes over. Who knows, right? Who knows how? You've got Enrico Cardile there, obviously coming over from Ferrari, senior technical member of staff. You've got Andy Cowell. You've got Whitmarsh is knocking about there. There's a lot of pieces, and we talked about this. The PSG analogy. Lawrence Stroll's trying to build this super team, big hires, big name signings, and can you make them all work together? He seems to have given Adrian Newey a lot of authority, and perhaps that didn't align. You remember David Sanchez, who joined McLaren from Ferrari earlier this year, I want to say, and was there for about 3 months, and then it was decided, actually, you know what, this guy doesn't work in our system. David Sanchez has now gone to Alpine and probably done a pretty good job. You can argue he's helped them kind of turn this season around somewhat, Alpine, because it started absolutely appallingly. Probably doesn't want to be in Newey's shadow. I really can't talk today. Damn, I'm struggling. Maybe. Look, I don't know. The speculation is going to be rife. Newey coming in and then Fallows going out. They've said, Aston Martin, he will still have a role at the team. In what capacity, they have not said. So it remains to be seen whether Fallows is going to be at Aston Martin for the long term. It does kind of remind me about the Otmar situation, because according to Otmar anyway, and I've got no reason to not believe Otmar in this, he was essentially, he wasn't fired, but Mike Crack came in and 90%, I think he said about 90% of his day-to-day tasks were taken away from him. So either he just cruises in some kind of position at Aston Martin that doesn't really give him anything, or he takes the opportunity at Alpine, and he took the opportunity at Alpine. But ultimately, Otmar decided to leave. Now, is that a bit of I don't know. There's many ways you can look at that. When you dismiss someone, there's payouts, there's stuff, right? There's certain T's that need to be crossed and I's that need to be dotted. Does doing it this way and not dismissing Fallows mean that Aston Martin? Like, I can only speculate. I know that happens in jobs at times when companies don't want to fire people because they don't want to pay out all of the stuff. I don't know. It was weird that they did that with Otmar, and we know they did that with Otmar, if you're going to believe what Otmar said, which again, I've got no reason not to. Have they done that with Fallows? I don't know. I mean, they've not said where he's going. You would think, right, if they've got a clear plan, right, you're not going to be TD anymore, we're going to move you to this role. Why wouldn't you put that in the press release? They put the team announcement out. If I just the screen share here, team announcement, change to technical leadership team. Dan Fallows has today. Aston Martin and technical director Dan Fallows have today jointly announced that from November, so now, Dan will no longer serve as TD. Dan will remain in the group. So what does that mean? Andy Cowell, I would like to thank Dan. Secured 8 podiums. Dan, my time in Aston Martin has been a joy, privilege, blah, blah, blah. This is just kind of jargon, really. It is time for me to pass that baton, but I look forward to watching the team's future success, which I'm sure will come soon. Watching the team's future success. Watching doesn't sound like not being part of the team's future success. Watching implies from afar. But then this says Dan will remain with the group. So I'm not sure what to make of that. I'm not too sure what to make of that, everyone. It seems a bit cryptic from the sidelines. Yeah, it does look like he's gone, but then why would they still say he's still part of the group? Unless they don't want to fire him. I don't know. We'll see. Yes, IBK, you caught the live. Well done. Weck with Stroll, perhaps. Actually, you know what? That's a shout. About 5 of you have said that at the same time. David, Aidan, Jawad, Jithu, and Josh have all said Weck project. Perhaps. That's a good shout, actually. That's a very good shout. I hadn't thought of that. If they move Dan Fallows to the World Endurance Championship project, which of course has taken a lot of resource and time and budget and should be the home of Lance, let's be honest, if they want to be taken seriously going forward. And certainly if they want to sign Max Verstappen alongside Fernando Alonso, which would be the super team. Oh my God, that'd be incredible. Yeah, maybe Weck. Weck's a good shout, actually. Fair play. But either way, we'll see. We'll see what goes on with Dan. Final bit of news. It's kind of not that deep, really, but kind of interesting. And it's about the F1 75 launch party at the O2 in London, which I will not be going to for reasons that I will explain shortly. On the 18th of February 2025, where 10 teams, 20 drivers, one epic showdown. Now, if I ever use that word again without reading something directly, and I use the word epic or mega, wow. Those epic's bad, but mega is unforgivable as far as I can't stand that word. It just, then call me out, all right? I'm telling you now, call me out on that, all right? Because that's nonsense. But yes, instead of 10 liveries being launched individually at the team's own respective launch events, be that Haas dropping renders or McLaren doing some event at the MTC or whatever, they will all be launched in a single event at the O2 in London on the 18th of February 2025. Which, of course, I don't know what to do, right? Because it's kind of a thing with this channel, and it's a really fun creative project for me that every season, going into livery launch season, I redesign all 10 F1 cars. Now, typically, I'll kind of plan as much as I can ahead, and then as soon as I've seen the car, I will then be like, right, cool, as soon as I've seen it, then I can start my redesign. Typically, I try and wait until I've actually seen the final thing. Sometimes when there's 3 launches in a day or whatever, and I'm trying to get one video out per livery, I might try and, place some logos that I know are going to be on the car preemptively so I can get as much prepared beforehand before I can actually then look at it and be like, oh, cool, what's my interpretation of that? I'm not really sure what to do with this, to be honest. I'm not really sure what to do because they're launching all 10 in one day. So I would still like to do one video per livery. This event will change your way. Oh, love it, Roger. Yeah, Hannah's not going to be too happy about this. I don't know if Hannah actually knows. She's not here at the moment, but I'm going to have to let her know that, sorry, Hannah, you're going to lose me for about a week, maybe 2 weeks, when I try and crank out all of these livery redesigns. Because I like to give my thoughts and feelings and opinion on the livery and then, go from there. Drunk redesign. Do you reckon, JB? Do you reckon I've got it in my locker while I'm half cut? What F1 75 years of Formula 1? Because, of course, Formula 1's first year as Formula 1 officially. Grand Prix did exist before 1950, but the first actual official year of Formula 1 was 1950. So 2025, 75 years later. And, yeah, look, it gives me something to do. So at least I know ahead of time. That is one thing that's nice, because sometimes all these livery launches are a bit weird times. I'm trying to, get to them or whatever. So I think, actually, all in all, it kind of works. I can do one live stream watching this along from home, because it would be cool to go, but I need to be cracking on with these livery redesigns. It's my job. So, and I'll take that very seriously. So, yeah. Tickets, I think they're about from 60 to 120 quid, I think. I think they've got a few different tiers. I saw Pondon share that on Twitter. Shout out Pondon if you know. And what do I think of? What do you lot think of it? What's your opinion on them doing this as one single event? And I do wonder, I guess they'll see how this goes. If it's well received, if it's not well received, maybe, I'm sure the teams would like having control of that launch event themselves. Right, what do you think of the livery launches being one event? So I prefer this, I'm neutral, or I prefer the old way. 3 options in the poll. If you're here live on YouTube, then please fill out the poll and let me know what you think. I think the teams and their sponsors, they will like having control over the event. It allows them to try something cool, like the marketing teams. It gives them a really, interesting project to work on. Launching a car livery is a big deal, right? There's a lot of hype going into a season. 2025, there is a lot of hype going into it because it should be super competitive at the front. And Lewis is in red, which of course is a huge deal. I think, so yeah, from the team, I think the teams would prefer it not the old way themselves. It's quite cool, like offering a ticketed event for fans. It's not going to be cheap. If it's like 50, 60 quid for a ticket, that's going to price a lot of people out. But then it will be live streamed. So, look, F1's an expensive sport to go and watch. What can I say? And my feeling, putting my own personal unique situation to one side, I'm up for it. I'm open to seeing all the liveries. I think it's going to be hard to... It's going to make the forgettable ones even more forgettable. Say when Red Bull do a launch and it's like, oh, maybe they'll do something different this year. And it's the same. Like, there's still a little bit of hype and a little bit of, maybe build up beforehand. Whereas with this, if they drop the same Red Bull, well, you've got all these other liveries to look at that, some of them will probably be significantly different. Who knows what Sauber are going to do? Will they still carry the Gammon, the Gammon sponsorship? Perhaps not. Hopefully not. And maybe, look, David, that's a good point. Maybe having them all launched together will give the teams a bit of a kick up the rear end to be like, look, come up with something good. Otherwise, you're going to be embarrassed in front of all your friends, basically. I feel like it takes away from the interest of pre-season attraction, and I'm worried about the cringe potential. Oh, Lambo. The cringe potential with everyone's always high, okay? And that you're not going to avoid that. I get that why they're doing it, but let's see what happens. I'm a bit skeptical. Look, they could make it a stinker for sure, but I'm not fundamentally against it. I guess it was kind of nice with the individual launches. It really kind of draws out that season intro gradually. It feels like, we might have these livery launches, and then do we know when pre-season testing is starting? I don't actually know when pre-season testing is starting. Does anyone, is that information out? Because it's like, do we have this event and then like a big gap with nothing going? 28th of February. Okay, so it's 10 days later. Thank you, Squidgy. So if it is, 10 days later, is it 25th? 25th or 28th? Well, one of them. All right, so maybe like a week to 10 days later. I guess that's not too long, is it? We can wait for a week between these to. They're probably just going to be on the show cars as well, aren't they? I wonder if they'll do that because, with delivery launches, sometimes teams use a chassis from last year, the end of the previous year for the livery. Sometimes teams just use the default F1 2022 car template model. You would think for consistency, maybe for this event, if you've got some teams that are using the 2022 generic template and some using their actual car, that could be a bit wrong. Probably a show car for everyone, which is a shame because, I like liveries because I've always liked liveries. I always like the way racing cars look, and it's kind of my background, right? So, but I get that a lot of people could not care less. They want to see the cars, right? And of course, that's huge, right? But give me this, all right? Give me this at least. And we care. We care as fans. The way these cars look is important, right? It's important because it, especially the little ones watching, right? When you're grown up, you will remember these cars, right? You'll look back in the same way that I look back on the West McLaren and the Chrome McLaren, obviously a big one, the Schumacher's Ferrari, even like the BMW Williams, right? That's the one I always think of first. Not so much BMW when they were with Sauber, but when they were with Williams. But yeah, should be a cool event. Not sure how many tickets they've got for it. And let's see how the poll's looking. Do you think these livery launches... What do you think of this livery launch being a one-off event? 33% of you think you're going to prefer this to the staggered one-at-a-time launches. 43% feel pretty neutral. And 23% prefer back in the old days. Back in the old days when teams used to do it one at a time. Back in my day. Maybe this is it. Maybe those days are gone. I would be surprised. I reckon this is a one-off. Because it's the 25th anniversary... Although the livery launches on the 2026 car, that's going to be crazy interesting because obviously there's so many unknowns about the field spread. The thing is, we've got a guaranteed decent season in 2025, really, haven't we? Because, the teams are hitting the ceilings of these regs. So it should be competitive. We don't know that about 2026, but it's the unknown that makes that interesting, and that makes the unknown of seeing these cars for the first time in these new regs, the Audi for the first time in a full-on Audi livery, hopefully not being at the back and being rubbish still. There's pros and cons, but I'm definitely open to it. I'm definitely open to seeing it. So, yeah, there we go. F1 launch event. I'm going to be a busy boy in February. I'm going to try and take as much of January to relax, redo my graphics. I won't be uploading as much. Maybe I'll do live streams because these are relatively much less time inducive than my main videos. But yeah, most of you seem open to it, and certainly so am I. Be fun. Cool. Right. 33 minutes gone. Anything else I haven't covered? Anything else we haven't spoken about? Darren, the cars need to be the size of F3, reduce the length mostly and also width. They are huge, and that's why the aero wash is so bad. Why can't they pass like they used to and should be able to? Well, Darren, I do think, Darren, that you look through the history books, and Formula One has never been the epitome of overtaking in motorsport. That's fair to say, right? If you want overtaking first and foremost, there are plenty of series. Any touring car series, for example. Not only because it's spec series, but you can Robbins Racing, right, in touring cars because you haven't got open wheelers that can, if your tyres touch, you're buggered. So I think that obviously the 26 cars are getting smaller. There is a push for more safety with these cars. For me, I think the better solution, rather than trying to make these cars smaller, and of course we should try and make them smaller, but at the end of the day, safety, you don't have to go back that long, right, in the grand scheme of human history. And F1 drivers were dying on a regular, right? So I think that the safety angle is super important, and the halo's been great, and it's a big part of why these cars are so big. They're big, obviously. The hybrid power units as well are a bit of a... I do think F1 will eventually go back to full ICE with biofuels. I think that is the way forward. I know, is it BTCC have dropped the hybrids and they're going to sustainable fuels? I feel like there's been a bit of the electric revolution was kind of coming in thick and fast. And I think for road cars, I think it does make a lot of sense, to be honest. And the cobalt and the mining process, that there's a lot to unpack there that isn't very sustainable. But I would say that in motorsport's always been a vessel for driving innovation in the automotive industry, and that passes on to lots of other categories as well, aerospace, whatever. So if F1 can position itself, I'm not sure these PUs are going to work. I'm very skeptical about these PUs from 26 onwards, and I feel like if they don't work as intended, then we could go back to give me a screaming V10 with biofuel, and I'm happy, right? Because I've seen some people quite dismissive of, oh, why do you care about the noise? It is part of it. It's part of motorsport. Like it just is. Not everyone has to care about the noise, and that's fine. You can watch Formula E if you don't care about the noise. I do, and that's just what I care about, right? Okay, I don't choose what I like and what I don't like. I like the noise. I like the cars sound good. And I don't think they sound. I've kind of got used to it these days, but you know, they could be worse sounding. But it's not like it was back in the day. And I really don't think that is just nostalgia talking. But yeah, I don't like the notion of carbon neutral racing. Well, the thing is, if we can get biofuels, then we can have it both ways, right? Because the problem with, and I do think there is a responsibility of motorsport to try and be part of the solution. We can't just keep doing what we've done before because, because it is a problem, right? It is a problem. And the cars are a tiny part of the overall, carbon cost of Formula One, because the logistics and all of that is much bigger than the cars themselves. But the cars are the things that the audience watches and are looking to for, almost the cars should kind of lead the way. And I think pushing for, fuels that can be drop-in fuels that can go into pre-existing. There is arguments, again, when you look at the cobalt mining and all of the stuff that has to go into producing batteries, there's certainly an argument that producing a more conventional ICE and putting sustainable biofuel in it is actually the more environmentally friendly choice. I think there's absolutely, Paddy Lowe's working on it, isn't he? Paddy Lowe's definitely working on biofuels. So you've got a lot of big minds, big brains in F1 who I think putting their focus to that problem can not only preserve motorsport, because it's entertainment, we love it, and unless I think the sport needs to be proactive in making itself future-proof, because who knows where the world's going to go, right? And I think that it would be naive for people to just be like, oh no, let's just stick to traditional fuels. Like, the sport will die that way. Like, whether you like it or not, it will just die that way. So, we'll see. With V10 or higher, you'll need refueling, or shorter races will not happen. Well, I guess, Roger, it depends on to what, you could develop an engine in theory that might have 10 cylinders. And then revs to different amounts. Like, there's definitely a happy medium. Maybe, look, again, who knows, right? Going forward, maybe there would be a more elegant solution to refueling. I mean, refueling was banned in a big way, I think, because of safety. And we saw a number of, whether it was Jos Verstappen getting engulfed back in the day, whether it's Felipe Massa in Canada, with the fuel hose still being attached. Like, there's a lot of there are kind of arguments against refueling, and I think, again, safety is an massively important part, right? But I just feel like there's a way they could make it work if they really wanted to. Question is, do they? I mean, it feels like Domenicali, whether you like him or not, he does seem to be quite open to the idea of synthetic fuels. I'm sure he's talked about this in the past. So we'll see. We will see. Some of you saying talk about Lawson. Oh, is this Lawson? Liam Lawson saying about McLaren should have the Kiwi national anthem? Because look, Red Bull Racing is a British company, Red Bull Racing, based in Milton Keynes, and they're owned by Red Bull GmbH, who are part Austrian, part Thai owned. Now, of course, Dietrich Mateschitz was the guy who, he's the one who pushed for Red Bull to be in Formula One, and he's Austrian, and almost it's a case-by-case basis, right? Because if you take the approach that, well, McLaren are based in the UK, so it should be the British national anthem, well, you should say the same about Red Bull. But it was Dietrich who, without Dietrich, Red Bull were not in F1, right? He's the one who really pushed for this. And so I think having the Austrian national anthem for Dietrich, more than anything, is a show of respect, and I think that's fine. I think that's fair. And so there isn't a one size fits all system, is there? Because you've got Red Bull having the Austrian anthem, but then Mercedes. Wait, Mercedes. What anthem do Mercedes have when they win? They must have German, right? Surely. But then McLaren have the British anthem. So yeah, Mercedes have. I was like, surely Mercedes have the German anthem. So Mercedes have the German anthem. They're based in Britain. Red Bull have the Austrian anthem. They're based in Britain. McLaren have the British anthem and are based in Britain. But it was founded by a Kiwi, Bruce McLaren. So look, I think it would be a respectful nod to McLaren's past and to the man who founded that team if they had the Kiwi national anthem. Absolutely. I think, like, Bruce McLaren obviously died way before his time. Was it a crash in testing, I want to say? Was it in the US? I can't even remember. I'm sure I've definitely read about it before. But yeah, Bruce McLaren obviously founded that team, and it dons his name and the heritage that comes with that. So I do think it would be, I would be completely on board with McLaren running the Kiwi national anthem out of respect for Bruce, in the same way that Red Bull out of respect for Dietrich. And I think you would say, if, well, I know Prost Grand Prix was based in France, right? I think. But say, Alain Prost had started a team in Britain. Say Ayrton Senna had started a team under his own name and it was based out of the UK. Obviously, it would run the Brazilian national anthem when they won. So I think he meant it in a joking manner. I don't think he did, yes, sir. I don't know. I don't think he did. What anthem is Sauber? I mean, we're not hearing that anytime soon. I don't know what anthem Sauber would be. Maybe it'd be Swiss. I don't know what I'm talking about again either, to be honest. But yeah, no, I reckon Liam means that, and as he should, right? As he should. McLaren, run the Kiwi national anthem. There's enough Britishness on the grid, all right? Kiwi national anthem. That'd be nice. Right, cool. Excellent. Thank you all for watching. Appreciate you all taking the time. 44 minutes of your time. Don't forget to support me on Patreon if you can, if you want to. Right? No obligation to. When I do the pre and post race streams, I do an exclusive Patreon stream straight after. Not with these kind of news ones. But next week on next... actually, yeah. I've completely forgot. Things are going to be a bit up in the air next week because I am going somewhere which is pretty cool. For a reason that's pretty cool that I can't tell you. I definitely can't tell you why I'm going. But I am going somewhere pretty cool. So I'm going to potentially be doing my pre-race Chinwag for the 2024 Las Vegas Grand Prix from... Well, I'm going to be doing it from America. So that's pretty cool. But not Vegas. I'm just going to dangle that, right? Just dangle that one. So, yeah. We'll see how that goes anyway. I'll work it out in good time. Okay. Thank you all again for watching. Appreciate you taking that time. Squidgy, Brandon, Elf, FH4, JPro, Luke, AF, JB. When's the next Aldas time? Oh, I don't know, man. I don't know. We've got to find a way to make money on the next one, mate, because we lost quite a bit. Ask Aldas. But yeah, thank you all for coming. Appreciate you all taking the time. Thank you for supporting me to do what I do. I love this job so much and I couldn't do it without you lot. So thank you again. My name's Tomo. Thanks again. Have a good one. Ta-da.